Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new thrilling episode of Joe and Sophie Tell a Tale. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Ramshaw, and this is my other host.
Of course, the better Sophie Ramshaw.
Yes, arguably the better of the two siblings. Yep.
Three. We have a brother.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about him. Okay, so let's get started with the intro, shall we?
Indeed.
Hit it, Derek. Joe and Sophie tell a tale. We'll try our best, but we'll probably fail. So come with us, cause we're about to set sail as Joe and Sophie tell a tale. Okay, what exciting thing do we have to talk about today?
The thrilling world of movie novelisations.
Ah, yes, of course. So what we're talking about is movies that then get turned into books so that people can take them home, read the book without watching the movie again.
For some reason, yeah.
For some reason.
The opposite of the norm. You know, usually a book's written and everyone's like, ooh,
That's a
make
good
that
book.
into a film.
Take it into a film and chuck Chevy Chase in it and
Always.
make millions of dollars.
Damn straight.
But instead, it's like, nope, let's take a movie that exists and chuck Chevy Chase in it and turn it into a book.
Put in a few, they said, Chevy Chase said, you know.
Yep,
and you
said
got
Chevy.
yourself.
You've got yourself a multi-million-dollar bestseller that's climbing the top of the lists of the New York Times
records.
number one. Yep.
Yep.
That Chevy Chase is, like, it's just up on Chevy Chase's wall.
Like,
Those were the good days.
Did you want to start, since I think I started last time?
I think you did, Soph. And yes, I will start. I will start with the very first topic, which, incidentally, is a very exciting, not very well-known movie/book thing that exists. So it's called Oh Heavenly Dog. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
No, neither have I. And
Is it about a cop and a dog?
Yes.
Seriously?
I will give you. I will give you. He's a private eye.
Okay,
I will
no,
give
he's
you.
a cop.
I will give you $50 if you can guess who plays the cop.
Oh my god, is it Chevy Chase?
No. Yes.
Wait,
yes,
is
it is. But I don't want to give you any money.
$50.
I will give you another $50 if you can guess who plays the dog.
Champ the dog. Is it
Champ.
also Chevy Chase?
No. Well, kind of, but no, it's actually Benji.
Dog?
Benji the dog.
Don't-
You know Benji?
No.
The Benji movies?
No.
He's like the most famous dog actor.
Excuse me. That goes to the title of the Frasier dog.
The Frasier dog.
Whatever.
The Frasier dog died and was replaced with a different
Yeah,
Frasier
I
dog.
know, like 5 times, I think.
Yeah. No, I think it was only twice. I think it was 2 different dogs.
2 times is still more than 1.
It's not 2 times. It's 1 time.
Oh.
Changed 1 time.
I swear it was like, whatever.
No, because in the original series you can see he's a bit sort of shaggier, whereas later he's a bit more trimmed.
Aw.
Yeah. Eddie.
Yeah,
I don't know
that's
what his
right,
real name
yeah.
was. But anyway, I've only just discovered while doing research for this episode that Oh Heavenly Dog, it doesn't actually have Benji in it. I was always like, oh, it's cool that they got Benji. Just so because basically the Benji series of movies, for anyone who doesn't know out there, and for you, obviously, giving me a very blank look. The Benji series of movies were like Lassie. You know, it was like a series of movies
that I know.
starring this dog named Benji. And the movies were called Benji. The dog was called Benji. It was just a
Okay.
series of movies
Man,
about the dog named
The
Benji.
70s were a weird time.
Yeah.
The 70s, I feel like that's when
I think
a lot
it was
of
actually, yeah.
dog-based things came out.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's coming back, you know. Now you got Marley and Me. You got A Dog's Journey. You got A Dog's Purpose. One of them's coming out soon. But apparently the dog that's in Oh Heavenly Dog is actually called Benjean. And she is, in real life, she's billed as Benji, like in this movie.
Yeah.
Because it says starring Chevy Chase and Benji. But it's actually Benji's daughter.
Well,
It's actually the real life Benji's daughter.
She followed in her father's
And
footsteps.
actually, it was her mother.
Oh, never mind.
Actually, I don't know because the daughter. It says the original Benji was actually named Higgins.
What?
I don't know.
Why change his name?
I don't know.
Higgins is not as fun, though. to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's like an old cop name.
I was just gonna say that seems more like a
Yeah.
private eye name. Like that would be your name. It would be like Higgins. Higgins and Benji are on the case.
Higgins here, you're a loose cannon.
You're a loose cannon, Higgins. He's like, get out of my
And he's like,
office.
I'll lose whatever I cannon.
My wife is dead because of that man.
That dog.
Because of that dog. That dog ate my wife's
Well, you
face.
need to put that behind you and start working as a team. Is
Hey, trying to eat lunch here.
that the dog?
No, that's
Chevy Chase.
McGarnagle
Oh,
in
yeah.
The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Billy's dead. Okay, so yeah, why am I talking about Oh Heavenly Dog?
Explain that.
I don't know. I'll honestly tell me. Why am I talking about it?
asking.
Why has this movie captured my mind
I've never
after
heard of
all
it
these
before.
years? You know what? Neither
Is it
have I.
because of Chevy Chase?
It's because of Chevy Chase. It's because when I was a kid, I was in school,
You had a
And
crush on Chevy.
I had a crush on Chevy. We all did. Basically, what happened was we had like a little bookshelf in my class when I was a kid, and it had a very limited selection of books. A copy of The Restaurant at the End of the Universe by Douglas Adams, which was awesome, and a copy of a book called Oh Heavenly Dog, and it was like based on the hit movie. And I was like, okay, I've never heard of this movie, but it had Chevy Chase on the front, and I loved The Three Amigos, and probably something else that Chevy Chase was in, mainly Three Amigos, but I was like, oh, that's the guy from Three Amigos, I will read this book because it's got him on the front cover. So I read it, and I still sort of remember some random bits. Basically, it's about this guy who's a private eye, played by Chevy Chase, but basically, he gets killed because he's on the track of some killer or some mystery or something. He gets murdered. At the same time, I think this is what happens. I think Benji the dog is running along across a road and gets hit by a car. And when that happens at the same time, and Chevy Chase's character goes into the body of Benji's character and has to solve the crime.
So I kind of was right
as Benji. So he kind of said, So I think the rest of the movie is the dog without Chevy Chase on screen, but it's Chevy Chase's voiceover thinking things and being like, oh, that's the guy who shot me or whatever.
That's
that kind of thing.
Classic.
It's a classic 1980.
80s.
80.
Right.
Not even 80s. Right on the cusp. 80.
Yeah.
So that's the book. So I remember reading it, and it had the classic like photos in the middle and stuff. But for years I was kind of like, is that even a book? Like I've genuinely never met anyone who's ever seen it, ever heard of it. I've never seen it on DVD.
This is actually just like a fever dream.
Yeah, probably.
Benji.
I've literally got the Wikipedia page
Chase,
in front of me. So hopefully it actually exists. Either that or there's some sort of actual
you
delusion
made this while
out
you
there.
were like sleepwalking.
Yeah.
You made the whole Wikipedia page and drew the artwork.
Hey, Omar Sharif is in it.
Hey!
So it's real. Okay?
Sharif.
I did not dream Omar Sharif. So very strange. But this is actually a movie that existed. I've never seen it on DVD. I've never seen it come on TV. I've never seen it. It's not on Netflix. It's nowhere to be seen. What is it? So, it's just
this. Is this your first grapple with movie novelisations?
That was my first grapple with movie novelisations. Yeah, that was
What a way to start.
What a way to start, just with that classic.
Oh, Heavenly Dog.
Oh, Heavenly Dog. So I always kind of remembered it, and then I just, as we were doing this topic for this, podcast, I was just kind of like, oh, I have to mention Oh, Heavenly Dog, because I have to get the word out there. I have to see if anyone out there actually knows.
If someone else reads this now because of this, that's just so sad.
Yeah, or even goes and finds the movie. I've got a picture of the poster here, and it actually says, it's an adult tale, T-A-I-L, an adult tale of murder, mystery, and forbidden love. And there's like a picture of Big Ben, and Chevy Chase kind of looking slightly stoned with a little gun.
As he always does.
Yep, and there's like a guy in a fedora kind of peeking around the side of Big Ben with a knife, and there's Jane Seymour in a bathtub. So I have no idea what's going on.
There's no dog on the cover.
Wait, is that the... Oh, no, that's the dog there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's got a magnifying glass. That's a bit creepy,
staring
actually.
right at the woman in the bath.
That's a bit creepy.
I bet you that's the Chevy Chase.
That's
Chevy.
That probably happens.
That is a scene, yeah.
Either that or that's actually Benji. That's actually Benji's daughter. Yeah, so that's pretty much my first topic, really.
Yeah.
just wanted to touch on Oh Heavenly Dog and kind of just have a bit of a chat about it and just put it out there into the world.
Do you remember the writing being at least like good?
I remember it being confusing, but I don't know if it was just because I was a kid and I wasn't really kind of... But I do remember it being a bit like... I was kind of like, am I supposed to have seen this movie? Because it was a bit like... It was just like the dog at one point is looking around the door of the bathroom. It's not the bath scene, but it was like the person... It's like someone's robbing Jane Seymour, so someone's in there and like obviously they don't care that the dog's there, but he's like watching them from around the door and he thinks it's the person who killed him. And I just remember it being a very vaguely written scene. It was just kind of like, suddenly he realized that was Massimo or something, and I was like, he never mentioned that the killer's name was Massimo. It's just like, maybe there's like an extra scene in the movie or something where it's like the killer's name is Massimo.
I feel like that's one problem that a lot of movie novelizations have. Like, I haven't, I think, read one all the way through, but I've like, grabbed them up and like read them, and there's like, I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
What's happening?
Like I read the Jumanji novelization, because that was a book that turned into a movie. But then I read the book that actually came from the movie, where it was just the script of the movie, but developed into a novel. And it actually goes into detail about, I think it's Julie and Peter, who are the main two kids in it.
Yeah.
And they go to school, And then it's like, it just cuts, and in the movie, like, their aunt, or whatever, Lilith from Frasier, she's like, oh, I can't believe you got suspended on your first day, or whatever. But in the book, you see this whole thing, this big fight breaks out, because someone disses Peter's dad or something, and then he gets all angry, and, like, has a bit of a temper and stuff. So it introduces all these other kind of little aspects that don't actually happen in the movie, which is another thing with movie novelizations, I think, is sometimes they have extra scenes in there that actually were in the script, but then get cut from the movie.
Yeah.
So the movie comes out and someone else goes and writes the book, but they haven't actually watched the
we
final.
can put everything in there.
Yeah. Or they just don't know that the director has eventually decided to cut out that scene. In the end, you get something that's pretty much the same as the movie you went to see, but it's just slightly different, or there'll be a character's name who's slightly different, or something like that. So yeah, very interesting world.
Yeah, well, it's hard as well. Like, if you like looked at a scene and then you try to write it, you can't just like step by step in like a novel, like write what happens, like mimicking what happens on the screen. You still have to put like emotion and actual stuff in there. So you have to add in stuff that wasn't.
That's the thing.
There,
well,
so it would be
exactly.
hard.
Yeah, you have to think like what they're thinking,
Yeah,
and
like,
then you'd have to also kind of based on what's going to happen next in the scene. Maybe that character gets shot or whatever. So you might be like, oh, that's a good example of a spot where I can go. He had a strange premonition that something bad was about to happen or something like that, and then suddenly they get shot, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. So, like, he did get shot. Every time a new Star Wars movie comes out, there's always movie novelizations out there. They always come out. They're always written by Alan Dean Foster, and they always come out about, like, 2 weeks before the movie comes out. I remember that happening a lot when I was a kid. I don't know if they still do that, but I remember when Attack of the Clones came out, and I was so excited about going to see the movie for some reason. And I remember the book was just sitting there on the bookshelf, and I was like, I could just go and pick it up and just find out what happens at the end. Like, nothing's stopping me except my own sheer force of will. I was like, no, I must enjoy the movie.
Money.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but it was in a bookshelf. It was just sitting there. I could have picked it up. I could have looked. It wasn't wrapped in plastic. It wasn't American Psycho. Like I could have just read it in the store. Like I didn't have to take it out. Like I could have just opened the book.
Books take time to read.
Yeah, but I could have just read the last page and been like, oh, this happened. But one thing I will say about Star Wars movie novelizations is one weird thing happened one time where I was, so this is a call out to all my Star Wars nerd peeps out there. Yep, my homies. My Storm boys. Basically, there's a bit in Revenge of the Sith. No, there's not a bit in Revenge of the Sith. There's a bit in one of the later movies. I think it's A New Hope, or it might be Empire Strikes Back, where Princess Leia sort of talks about how she has one memory of her mum, and she's like, I remember her being beautiful, like blah blah blah, but it's faded with time now. And then in Revenge of the Sith, everything happens where it's like all basically leading up to the start of A New Hope, but you see. Padme, who's Natalie Portman, and she gives birth to...
She dies at birth.
Yeah, she dies at birth.
Yeah, what the...
So, yeah, exactly. So she's... And, like, there's just one scene where she's holding the baby, and she's like, I'm going to name her Leia or something, and then it gets, like, taken away. And I actually read the novelization, and that scene in that bit, it's just like, baby Leia stared up at her mother as though, like... retaining an image of her face forever, like something like that, and I was just like, "Oh, I see what you're trying to do there. All right,
chuck that in there.
You're gonna chuck that in there. All right, yeah, cool. All right,
George Lucas.
Sure.
George Lucas.
George Lucas, goddamn George.
His mistakes, accurate.
Yeah, but I was kind of like, oh yeah, all right, they're Jedi, so maybe they have magical powers.
Okay.
And
all
Princess Leia could fly in the latest Star Wars.
Excuse me?
Sure. Did you not see that one?
I haven't seen the latest one.
She flies through space. She space flies, and in real life, she space dies.
God, we both like
Yeah, no, I love Carrie Fisher.
My main memory though was from her. Was from Drop Dead Fred.
Drop Dead Fred. Yeah.
I liked that more than Star Wars at the time.
I heard they were going to do a remake of Drop Dead Fred years ago.
Okay,
I heard that, but
I was gonna say,
like
only
5
if
or 6
Adrian
years
Edmondson plays Rick Mail.
ago. That would be cool. But no, it was going to be Russell Brand. That's what I heard at the time.
Get the hell
It was when he was around the same time as doing the remake of Arthur.
That was not a good.
No,
choice.
it wasn't. I don't think it was very well accepted.
Not
So
popular.
yeah, everyone was just kind of like, yeah, maybe no more Russell Brand remakes.
Now he just does weird YouTube videos with a huge beard talking about like.
Does he?
Life.
Oh, that's good.
That's
good for him. I'm glad. Yeah, he turned into Jesus.
Well, let's flip on to my first little
yes, please.
subject here.
What's your subject?
Talking about how movie
Yep, go on.
movie novelizations get people who don't normally like to read into reading.
Okay, yep.
One thing I found out in high school a lot was just everyone hated reading.
Yeah,
so I wasn't a
that's
big
right.
reader either to begin with, just because I found it so like I'd get bored just so quickly.
Yeah.
And I loved watching TV. And
Yeah.
I think I was a bit spoiled because like TV just like half an hour
Yeah.
and it's done. Whereas a film, like a book, you got to take
Yeah.
like a couple of me as a kid, a couple of weeks to read it.
Yeah.
But I started reading like The Hobbit and stuff, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And then in high school, everyone, it was kind of new. It was like a nerd thing to do. It was like, oh, you read?
Yeah, sitting there
You're
with
so gay. You're so homosexual, man. It was just like a weird thing, and like the popular kids was like, oh, like, that's really stereotypical, but that's what it was like.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. There's always that kind of stigma of like, oh yeah, nerds read and stuff like that. And it's just like, yeah.
Glasses, which I do have.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I never had glasses in high school, but I do now. Got them when I was about 21. It was after all that book reading.
You realised you were blind.
Yeah, that's right. And then I realised I could actually see.
Yeah, I used to be long-sighted, so I could read better far away. But then I started reading a lot of fan fiction online.
That's the problem.
And
hey,
then,
we're calling back to episode 1 now. Steve Buscemi.
Scat.
Dog scat.
I started reading a lot of fan fiction,
Yep.
and then Mum took me to the optometrist to get my eyes checked again. They're like, "Oh, your eyes have actually switched. You're now," because I only needed.
Your left eyeball is now in your right eye socket. We've never seen this before.
You don't actually have eyes anymore. No, I used to only have reading glasses.
Yeah.
But then I finally went back, and they're like, "Your eyes have actually swapped now. You're now short-sighted."
What the hell?
And I was like, "What? How's that happened?"
You
She's like,
overdid it. You overdid the long reading.
And I was like, "I read a lot on my screen." She was like, "Oh yeah, that could have done it. Like
That'll do it.
a lot of time over. You're focusing too much on the screen." And now I need permanent glasses because I can't see far away anymore.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
So,
yeah, I never needed
reading.
glasses like my whole life, and then one day I just went in and I was like, I was getting sort of headaches and stuff, and then they were just like, "Yeah, so you've never had a prescription before?" I was like,
Yes, you're
"No," and they were
blind.
just like, "Yeah, you need to wear glasses." I was like, "Okay," and then went in like a week later, and I just sort of like the girl at the counter was like, "Oh yeah, here's your glasses," and I was like, "Oh, thank you." So do I just wear these all the time? And she's like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Okay."
I'm so confused at that. Anyway, flipping back to what I was saying, I think I've heard a lot about people who don't particularly like reading, like my friends as well. They'll get into reading like a movie novelization of one of their favorite films, or even like comic books based off, like graphic novels is one that's based off of TV shows as well.
Yeah, that's
and they
pretty
suddenly
cool.
like, oh, like I knew everything that was going to happen, but it was fun to read it still, and then that actually gets them on the path to like actually, reading good things.
Well, I think that's how movie novelizations started and everything, because originally it was before home video was a huge thing. It was like that was the only way that you could take a movie home with you. So like I think as a kid, obviously you still had the internet in the 90s when I was growing up, but it was like it wasn't as like you could just stream a movie or whatever, or like you still had like you could go to the
YouTube.
When
YouTube
I
was
didn't
a kid.
exist.
For me, you could go to YouTube and just watch scenes.
Yeah. Or for me, it was kind of like I just have to beg mum or whatever to like, please take me to Video Easy or whatever, and like go to the old video library on the corner. We'd get out like 6 weeklies or whatever, and then like I'd just have that for a week, and then I just try to
watch them a couple times.
Watch it a couple of times, until eventually maybe you'd get that video for Christmas or something, or like, and then you never had to rent it again. It was yours to own.
I remember like Dad came home with Indian in the Cupboard.
Indian in the
He was
Cupboard
like, this is for you, and I was like, I'm so excited. I own it. I'd watched it like a bunch of times, but it was one of those things that like it came on TV, or we got it out of the video library like once. But then Dad bought it for me for some reason.
I had the movie novelization of Indian in the Cupboard. I don't know why. Like,
where's it gone now?
I don't know. I had it for ages. I think I bought it at like.
I was thinking. I was like, I bet that's one that's been turned.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had that at like some kind of library sale. It was like where you could just get everything for like 50 cents or whatever. That's where I got their copy of Jumanji as well. Got that for like $1, and some
copy of The Hobbit.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's like,
I think,
I think it might have been $1 because it was hardback. Yeah, no, that's like next level.
$50 now.
I will, literally now just like go into a store and just drop like $20 on a book, easy. Yeah. And the one that we've got is for vision impaired people, because like it's that huge font, a huge font,
like old people kind of thing.
Yeah, old people text. But yeah, Indian in the Cupboard. I wonder if the title Indian in the Cupboard would still be allowed nowadays, because it'd be like Native American in the Cupboard.
No, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's more going on to like too much of like a PC thing, I reckon. That's still...
Yeah, but you're still not supposed to...
They're still Indians, aren't they?
No, you're not meant to call them Indian. You're supposed to call them Native American.
Okay.
Are we done with your topic?
Did you have anything to say about it?
What was your topic?
How it gets people who don't usually like reading into
Yes. No, I agree. I remember quite a few times actually, even though, I love to read, always up for reading anything, but there are just times where I'm kind of like, I remember going to school and being like, having to choose a book from the library or something. And sometimes, and sometimes you'd see, like Godzilla, and it was the Roland Emmerich 1998 or whenever it came out, one with Matthew Broderick, and just being like, yep, sure, I'll take that because I've seen the movie, so I'll read that. Now I think I have much more discerning tastes. We're not saying that my taste is any better now, but I'm just saying I'll be like...
You won't be picking up 1998 Godzilla.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I probably won't even watch the movie.
You blame me for that, because I was born in 1998.
I met you and saw that movie on the same day. Yeah, and I preferred the movie, to be honest. I still do.
One thing, as I said before, I wasn't really a big reader back in my day, just because I got so bored so quickly. But one thing I loved was a show called Monk.
Yep, awesome. Tony Shalhoub, the man.
Great. I just love murder mysteries, and it was just funny, little quirky kind of thing. Look, some episodes now are just a bit weird, but it was awesome. And I think I don't remember where I got it from. I might have bought it online or something. But there was a novelization of, they were like brand new episodes. It was like one episode in like 200 pages, written from the point of view of like Monk's like sidekick girl. Yeah. I've already forgotten her name because she was the one I didn't like. Yeah, her.
They were my books because I rented them out from the library and I gave them to you because you liked the show. So because I actually had them from our local library and I borrowed them and I gave them to you, and then later you ended up loving them so much.
Every single one of them.
Did you actually buy every single one?
I think there might be one or two that I haven't got yet.
Have you read all of them?
In line. No, I've read like 3 of them. But
you should just sit down for a weekend and just watch,
what I did was
read them all.
The first one I read was called Mr. Monk in Trouble, so that must have been the one that you gave me. And there was a time during high school when our dad had to pick me up and take me to school because Mum was over in England or something. And one day,
England?
This was like only a little while ago. She went there for Granddad's birthday or something. So this was in like 2014. Anyway, so I was just sitting there. I got all ready for school and everything, packed my bag and stuff, made my lunch, and then I was reading Mr. Monk in Trouble. I just started it. Yeah. And it was like awesome. I was like, oh, this is so good. And after like an hour or something, I was like, Dad was supposed to pick me up at some point. Yeah. And I moved to like the front door and I kind of sat there and I was like still reading it with my bag and everything, and then eventually I got a phone call from Dad and he was like, oh, I completely forgot to pick you up. I had a meeting at work and I just completely forgot, so it looks like you've got the day off. And I was like, yes. And every time I put the book down, just like 3 minutes later, I picked it up again and I read the whole thing in the one day.
You read the whole thing in one day?
Which for me was awesome. Crazy because I was quite a slow reader, and again, I got bored quickly. But it was literally just acted like one episode.
That's so cool.
And so now I've got like 14 of the Monk books. Again, I've only read 3 of them, but they're just really good. Even though I hate the Nancy, Natalie character. Yeah, I liked the other one more, but it still was from her point of view. But it was like really well written. It was written from a guy point of view. Like it was written by a guy, but with her point of view. But it was just so well done. Like Monk still was great. Like I just imagined Tony Shalhoub.
I actually thought, because I read a few of those books, and I actually thought it was better and like more consistent than like most of the episodes of the show like itself, because it was like it really sort of went into his like OCD and all the little quirks and stuff that make Monk. And then there were certain things that he just like literally couldn't do, he just couldn't touch the like peanuts on the bar, like because he was like they were interviewing a bartender or whatever, and he just like can't touch them. He has to leave the room before he'll even talk to this guy, and it's this whole thing and everything. Whereas in the movie, in the show, they would kind of skip over things like that sometimes.
Random, like who wants to watch that specifically all the time? So they'll just like every now and then one thing will be like bad, like annoying to him, and then the next time he'll just kind of ignore it because
they don't have time in the script for that. Otherwise it would he would be incapacitated like every second. But in the book, you have lots of room to just like flesh that out and just like really play up that conflict of just Monk being in conflict with like his own surroundings just at all times, like any room.
The cool thing about it, I guess it's not really a novelization though, because they are like brand new episodes.
Yeah, that's right. I still think it falls into the category.
I think the same thing with novelizations as well though, is when I think back on Mr. Monk in Trouble, which was the favourite one that I read, I imagine it like it was an episode, and sometimes I think, oh, it's not actually an episode, it was a book. Because
Yeah.
it was just so well written and stuff, it just felt like an episode, and I imagined the characters so clearly that I imagine them as scenes in my mind, which is
Yeah.
awesome, and I think that's probably what novelizations
Yeah.
do too. You just think you're watching the film again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's what I remember doing when I was a kid. I remember just, like on a Saturday or whatever, I'd just be chilling in my room, just like with the book of Jumanji or whatever, just sitting there reading it, eating a little bowl of popcorn as if I'm chilling at the cinemas. Obviously, like probably my two favorite hobbies in the world are just watching movies and reading books. So to put them together is like, if I could read a book while I was at the cinema, I'd do it. If I could watch a movie while I was reading, I would do it.
Weird
So it's like
thing to do.
putting them all together, but yeah.
My favourite is movies and video games. And there are books based on video games. That's a topic for another time.
Yep.
But they're all trash. So never mind.
Never mind.
But
well, there are movies based on video games as well. Most of them are pretty trashy as well. So
yeah, literally.
I bet you
they've never won. Like they've never figured it out.
You know what else they have? I'm pretty sure that I've seen somewhere around, because you know how they made a movie out of Mortal Kombat, the video game.
Yeah.
With I think Jean-Claude Van Damme or whatever was in it. I'm pretty sure there's a movie novelization of that. So I'm pretty sure, that's like a game that got turned into a movie, and then the movie based on the game got turned into a book.
Yeah.
So it's a slippery slope. It's a crazy rabbit hole. Don't be falling down that rabbit hole. There's a Jabberwocky down there. Alrighty, so my next topic is just this weird little book that I'm holding in my hand right now. I'll give everyone a little sound of it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's the good stuff. So this thing that I'm holding, it's called a photo novel. It's spelled Fotonovel, and it's of the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind. There's been a lot of talk of getting random books at library sales. For like 50 cents or $1 or whatever. I'm pretty sure this was one of those. Like, I think I got it for like 50 cents. Probably got like a giant sack full of books or something for like $2 or something. So basically, it's this weird book that's really small and really thin and weirdly heavy, because every page is a photo. And
in colour as well.
In
it's
colour.
Impressive.
Impressive, yeah. Because this book was actually published in 1978, which I think is possibly when the movie came out. 1978 Columbia Pictures, yeah. So obviously it was timed to come out at the same time as the movie. But yeah, it's just the book of the movie, but in sort of almost graphic novel form. But it's not even a graphic novel, because it's literally
instead of like the comic boxes, it's just pictures.
It's just photos, like stills from the movie with their dialogue. So like next to them, kind of in little thought bubbles. But then also in the top left-hand corner of each page, or sort of most pages, it's got a little description of what's happening in the scene. To me, looking at it now, this was like my favorite book when I was a kid. I read it all the time, just because for some reason I wasn't even that big a fan of the movie, but I loved having a book that had all the pictures and I could pretend I was watching the movie.
Yeah, this is so weird.
It's really weird.
It's literally just stills from the book with speech bubbles.
Yeah, they're not even speech bubbles. It's just like a
just
random
text with a
just
line.
text with a line pointing at Richard Dreyfuss's face.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is strange.
And also a thought bubble.
Yeah, like instead of the line, it's dots.
I don't know if that's a voiceover in the movie or if that's just something they threw in there just as a little artistic license, like we were saying. But yeah, it's weird. So I haven't really ever seen this before.
Yeah, this is very...
Yeah, but I was looking up, in preparation for this episode, I was kind of like looking up some stuff to do with this company, because it says at the top, a Mandala Productions photo novel. So I think Mandala is either owned by Bantam Books, or it's like a division of Bantam Books or something. Bantam Books produce a lot of...
Bantam Books.
Yeah, Bantam.
And I was just saying it again because you said it so many times.
Bantam Books. Bantam Books, people. They produce a lot of, like, I don't know if it's fair to say, but kind of like mass-produced sort of pulpy sort of books. So a lot of, I've got a couple of Dennis Lehane novels that I picked up at secondhand bookshops over the years. They're always Bantam. So I don't know if this is one of the things that they got into to, like, try to make a bit of extra quid.
Yeah. Well, it says on the front there, like on the thing, over 400 colour scenes.
Yeah. I mean, so it's very, it's like boasting about how many colour scenes it has. But also, actually, the thing I was going to say before is that it feels and reads as if it was just sort of adapted verbatim from the script that Steven Spielberg wrote, which it says on the front, based on the screenplay by Steven Spielberg. But it even has the little, bits in the top right-hand corner, like he comes into scene and looks, blah, blah, blah. It's like an illustrated storyboard for the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, that's insane.
But
I've
anyway,
never seen that book before.
yeah, it's really weird. I purposely dug it up because I've got this huge box full of books in storage, and I was like, I know I've got that weird Close Encounters like photo book, so I went and fished it out of there. Finally found it. I was like, yeah. I was like looking up a bit of information about them online, and apparently they mostly do Star Trek novelizations of episodes. So I think that must have been their thing, because they had like a whole bunch of them, like a whole series. It was like photo novel number 1, photo novel number 2, and it was just random episodes, and it was like The Trouble with Tribbles and like all these classic Star Trek episodes. So then for some reason they must have done a couple of movies as well. So I was looking online, and there was this and Grease for some reason.
I mean, the other ones made sense.
yeah.
Like sci-fi, and it's Grease.
Yeah, Grease for some reason. It does get a bit sci-fi because they, like float off at the
Yeah,
end in
but-
that flying car.
Okay, there's a theory that says that she's actually dead since the beginning.
But also, another little added thing that I thought was kind of fun to mention is it starts with the book itself just has a cast list as well. So it's just got kind of little black and white photos of all the actors and their character names and descriptions of the characters. So like it's got Roy Neary, Richard Dreyfuss, next to a picture of a young, sort of haggard-looking Richard Dreyfuss. A power repairman whose sighting of a UFO sets up a shattering chain of events that affects his family, his job, and his very existence.
Ooh.
So and then it's got like, all the people who play in the movie and all that stuff. So it's just weird. Like it's just a cool little like
fun thing
it's
to
basically
read,
like owning the script. Yeah,
instead
but
of doing work,
yeah,
like homework or like.
exactly. But to be honest, now I'd probably just rather sit and watch the movie. So
Yeah.
for some reason, just as a kid, that was fun to me.
Time
for quiz time. Quiz. A quizzity quiz. I said a quiz. Quiz. Gonna ask you some questions. Gonna tell you some suggestions. No.
I'll slap you if you do that again. All right. Well, do you want to lay a quiz on me?
Shall I take us off?
Yep.
Let's do it. I have 2 questions, and they're both in the same vein.
Okay.
Question 1: which came first in these instances? Actually, both my questions are the same. It's both going to be a which came first, book or a movie kind of thing.
All right.
Okay. So, in this instance, the first question is Christmas with the Cranks. Was it a movie first, directed by good old Joe Roth, or was it a book written by John Grisham, the author of The Pelican Brief and those sorts of known for his writing of political thrillers?
Christmas with Cranks. That's the most political thriller I ever did watch. I love Christmas with Cranks. It stars thingy.
Tim Allen.
Tim Allen. I was going to say Tim Curry. I was like, no.
Nope.
Stars Tim Allen. I can't see him being offered a role that was from a book for some reason. I just feel like the crappy screenplays were written for him. And that's just how they existed. Like Jungle to Jungle and stuff. Like, Christmas with the Cranks is pretty stupid. But
Jungle
to
Jungle is based on Shakespeare. No, it's not.
I was going to be like, is it? Well, I'm thinking that Christmas with the Cranks came first.
Wrong.
God damn it, Tim Allen.
It was a novel called Skipping Christmas by John Grisham.
Oh, Tim Allen. My one is E.T. the Extraterrestrial by William Catswinkle.
Yep.
I think that's how you say it. So that's obviously not Steven Spielberg.
Yep.
So
is this the epic poem that E.T. is based on?
No, it's the movie novelisation.
Oh,
so
yes,
it's written by someone called William Catswinkle.
Sorry, I was thinking of last week.
Is it written from the point of view of which character from the film? Is it A, Elliot, which is the main boy character?
Yep.
Gertie, which is his sister.
Drew Barrymore, yep.
Yep, or E.T. himself.
Oh, that's a good question, because they always do something a bit like, you'd think it would be Elliot, because it's like, the movie is focalized to be from Elliot's point of view.
He's the main guy. He's the main character.
Exactly. So, but I don't know. There's a lot of scenes in there that aren't from Elliot's point of view that I feel like it might be easier to get in there if it's Gertie, for example, being a very young child and still being able to have a whimsical effect, being able to show the story from the eyes of a child, but also that wouldn't give anything away because people would sort of still talk around her and stuff without kind of paying too much attention to her, So
is it from E.T.'s point of view?
Or is it? Yeah, it could be. It could be like a scientific manual of like, I saw these humans. Fernham.
Sound like Eric Carmen.
Cheeseburger.
Fernham. Oh God.
Sound like who? Eric Carmen.
Yeah. Fernham.
Fernham. Who's Eric Carmen? Cartman?
Cartman.
Oh, Cartman. Oh, right, okay.
Friend him, dude.
People just call him Cartman. You don't.
Whatever.
People don't call him Eric Cartman.
I'm not a big
I thought you meant-
South Park dude.
I thought you meant Eric Cartman, which I think was the guy who sings like "Turn the radio up for that
Phone
sweet sound." Phone me home, never let me go.
Anyway, which one?
I don't actually think it is Eric Cartman. I think it's like Aaron Carter or not Carter. It's not Aaron Carter. Who knows?
I don't know.
Write in, people, and let us know.
Right in. What are we? 12:52.
What?
I was trying to do like a really old time.
12:52. Yeah.
Did they write? Yeah, they. I'm sure.
I'm sure they
I'm sure
wrote.
language was written back then.
I'm sure language was written back then. Yeah. Oh god. Who grewed you up then?
I said something stupid the other day.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was. Do you remember what I said?
Everything you say.
Elliot, Gertie, or E.T.?
I'm gonna go with Gertie.
Gertie? No, E.T. himself.
Oh, what?
As I was looking up this, I was just thinking, like, what am I going to do? And I was like, oh, this is a fun thing. And it's like written from the point of view of E.T. I was like, what?
Shocked.
Shook.
I am shookened.
Shooketh.
I'm shookened to
I
my
was
core.
just like, would that even work? I didn't
Weren't
have
able
time
to find an
read
excerpt from it, or-
Oh, you probably could find if you digged hard enough,
Yeah,
but I
well,
couldn't be bothered.
I'm gonna start digging.
But I was just like, how is that even gonna, like, how do you write from E.T.'s point of view?
That's
Like,
so cool. That'd be awesome.
So, yeah, good on you, William Catswinkle.
Yeah, well done.
Did what no one thought possible. Alright.
What a guy.
What's your second one?
Okay. My next one is, which came first, book or movie? So same question
yes,
again,
yes,
but
yes.
a different thing. So the movie is Escape from New York,
Ooh.
directed by John Carpenter and written by John Carpenter and Nick Castle. Or the book Escape from New York by Mike McQuay.
Is Escape from New York the first one, or is that Escape from LA?
That's Escape from New York is the first one. Escape
Okay.
from LA is the second one. Escape from Planet Earth is the
Was
movie
The
that they
Thing-
haven't yet made.
Was The Thing a book first?
The Thing was a short story called Who Goes There,
Okay, so-
originally.
And John Carpenter did that as well.
Yes,
John
exactly. So
Carpenter's
there
The
is
Thing.
precedent.
So
There is precedent.
He
Yeah.
has taken from books before.
He has.
So New York's pretty gritty, kind of, thing about talking about, social topics, about,
That's true, yeah.
things and stuff.
Yeah, presidents being trapped
Yeah.
in prison islands.
Crazy, prison
Yeah,
towns.
yeah, and the president is British for some reason. Little interesting fact about Escape from New York, just for anyone out there who's
Russell
watched it.
is in it.
Kurt Russell, and he's great. Actually, Kurt Russell has admitted that throughout that entire movie, he just does a Clint Eastwood impression. He's just doing a Clint Eastwood impression.
Yeah.
And also in Big Trouble in Little China, his other movie that he made
There's
with
another-
thing.
Just him doing a Clint Eastwood impression.
No, John Wayne doing a John Wayne impression, which is actually really obvious if you watch the movie because he's just kind of like, I'm gonna do that. But then he also
Turned
does that
into
in
Rocky.
Adrian. But he also does that in Death Proof as well, because I think Quentin Tarantino
Really?
kind of got him to do it. Yeah, he's just like, he's talking to that girl at the bar and he's just like, I've got a little
yeah.
black book and everyone I meet goes
that's like
in
the
that
only
book.
bit that he sounds like that in the
Yeah,
film.
I know, he
Like,
just
and it
suddenly
sounds
turns
so
into John
weird.
Wayne.
Yeah, like he talks normal, I feel like, for all of it. And then that
I
bit's like,
know.
everyone goes in that book. And it's
Yeah.
like, why is someone
Why are you
talking
John
like
Wayne?
that?
I think
Okay.
it's Also, the singlet he wears in Big Trouble in Little China is hanging behind the bar in that scene in Death Proof.
Oh, Tarantino, you son of a gun.
You son of a gun. But
Okay.
no, that wasn't the interesting fact I was going to say
Oh.
about Escape from New York. The interesting fact is that Donald Pleasance, who plays the president in it, he's randomly British because Donald Pleasance is British and obviously decided not to do an American accent for it. But he's the president of the US. So apparently Donald Pleasance, because he's such a sort of like serious sort of method type actor, decided to write an entire like thing for himself. Like him and John Carpenter, I think, went over it and they just wrote this whole thing that was like why he was British and how he became the president and like all this
Wouldn't
stuff.
it have been
That
just
he never
easier-
they never included it
Yeah.
in anything and he never showed it to anyone. But it was just like they just came up with this whole
Yeah.
thing just so that he would know.
Couldn't he have just done an American accent?
It probably would have been easier, but no.
Alright, well, I'm going to say then I can see it being like a book, like this gritty 80s book. It was a gritty 80s film, so like,
Yeah. Based in the gritty, far-flung future of 1997.
yeah. Whoa. Man, was that gritty.
That was a gritty year. That was the year before you
All
were
that
born.
denim.
That was the last good year of my life.
You suck. Alright, I'm going to say it was a book first.
You know, I think it sounds like a cool, gritty novel as well, but unfortunately it didn't come until after the movie.
Damn you,
yeah.
Carpenter.
Yep.
Damn you, Tom Allen.
Yeah. So the movie came out in 1981, and I think the book came out the same year, but shortly afterwards. Yeah. So, but they were connected. They didn't just. They weren't unrelated. It just came out in the same year.
Are Thingamajig's like backstory for why he's British in it at least?
No, actually, I don't know. That would be a good idea. Like that would be the place to include
given
it.
The guy who wrote it a little more
just
stuff to work with.
Then it would have been written by Mike McQuay and Donald Pleasance. All right, I say Shaquille O'Neal.
Did you read what I wrote?
I just saw something written there, so I swear I didn't look at the answer.
Shaquille O'Neal is written on there. It is. Which of these films has not been turned into a novelisation?
Shaquille O'Neal.
Yes. He is a man.
No.
Mars Attacks, obviously.
Wait, I didn't hear the question. Go back.
You answered Shaquille O'Neal. Which of these films has not been turned into a novelisation?
Okay, yeah. Oh, this is a good question. All right.
Mars Attacks, obviously, classic.
Yep.
Space Jam.
Yep.
Kazam, which is...
Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah, I didn't know if you knew what Kazam was. So
I didn't actually, yeah.
Okay, it's like a weird like genie thing with Shaquille O'Neal.
Okay. Sounds very 90s.
Yeah, I think it probably was. Or Groundhog Day. Or, no, I should say, Groundhog Day!
So, Groundhog Day. I could see all of them working quite well as... Yeah, I know. You've picked very well. You've done very well.
Sucker.
Now, Space Jam, I could see working very well. I remember Space Jam coming out when I was a kid, and I loved it because it was awesome.
I've watched it recently, and I don't like it.
Bill Murray. That's all you need to know.
I shut it off before I got to him.
I think that was the first thing I ever saw Bill Murray in. So
I don't remember. What's the main basketball dude player? You know, I've already forgotten.
Michael Jordan.
Michael, yeah. Okay. I can't believe I forgot his name. I didn't remember how bad he was at acting.
They're remaking it.
Oh my god, of course they are.
Yeah, but with LeBron
Shaquille
James.
O'Neal.
No. Kazam 2.
Kazam 2. The space jamming.
The space jamming. It's actually, little interesting fact. This kind of was making the rounds on the internet a few weeks ago, so people might already know this. But Tony Hawk revealed recently that he's the famous pro skater. Yeah, so he revealed recently that he was approached by Warner Brothers or whatever by Shaquille O'Neal, in an alleyway. No, he was just approached because they were going to make a sequel called Skate Jam, and it was going to be they come to Earth again and enlist Tony Hawk's help in some kind of
that would have been cool when
thing.
Tony Hawk was younger. He's
and it's he would have been in his prime, whereas them coming to Earth now and getting a 60-year-old Tony Hawk to help with random things. On some adventure probably wouldn't have the same ring to it, but anyway, they're just doing a remake now with doing the exact same plot of Space Jam, but with LeBron James instead of Michael Jordan.
I don't know.
There's
a bit too much remakes going on at the moment. They're just kind of cashing in on that nostalgia.
It's what they do. Yeah, it's what they do.
Space Jam, you shouldn't touch.
Well, you were just saying it's terrible.
Yeah, but
maybe LeBron James is a better actor than Michael Jordan.
Yeah, that doesn't mean I want it again.
They should do it, but
It happened. It was bad, but awesome. Leave it.
They should do it, but with LeBron James playing Michael Jordan, just do it as a period piece. So base it in the mid-90s, but just have
No, instead of that, all the characters should be Shaquille O'Neal.
Okay.
Anyway, what?
Anyway, I have no idea. Have you got the answer written down? Let me let me look at it.
No.
Just let me look at it for a quick second. Now, let me look at the actual sort of guesses. Mars Attacks. I'll go Mars Attacks.
Mars Attacks?
Yep.
Incorrect.
Mars
Attacks
which
is
one?
a novelisation, so is Space Jam.
Space Spam.
And so is Kazam for some reason.
Okay, whatever.
Groundhog Day is the one that is not actually a novelisation for
that
some
sucks. Well, ask me your last question and let's be done.
The last one is... Stop looking. You dirty little thief.
Tramp.
I was going to say thief. I said thief.
I was going to say thief and I said it.
And I did.
Alright, go on.
What was the first ever film novelisation? Was it A, Les Vampires? That was made in 1915.
Oh.
Or was it London After Midnight, which came out in 1927?
Oh. Any additional information about either of those movies?
No. No, I mean, I can't remember. I wrote this question a while ago now, so I can't remember what they were about. But, so these are both films, and one of them was turned into...
to a book. Okay, good.
I was going to keep going. Yeah, one of them was turned into a novelisation. They're both from ancient times.
from ancient times, like
1914
1914 and 1927. Oh god.
London After Midnight. I feel like, don't you know that one? Because I've heard that so many times. It's apparently like a classic.
Is it? Oh, okay. No.
Yeah, black and white and stuff.
Yeah.
Les Vampires, I think, is a silent film.
Yeah.
But I can't remember exactly. But, I mean, which one would you guess? One came out in 1915, 1927.
I'm going to say, and I think, so, I mean, if I'm wrong, then I'm not going to know what's going on. But if I'm right, then, because I'm pretty sure I saw, because the reason why I wanted to do this topic in the first place was, like, ages ago I read a cool article that was about kind of like movie novelisations and, you know, like how they're kind of like, they're a lost art, you know, people don't really do them anymore and that kind of thing. And I feel like there was a picture of Les Vampires in there or something like
So
in
you
this
know what
article.
that one is?
So no, like I think it was there was a picture of it in the article as like, you know, this was the earliest one, you know, that kind of thing. So, you know, either I know that because I actually read that, or I'm just tripping,
making
stuff up to sound cool. So hit me with it. Am I cool?
Les Vampires?
Les Vampires.
Correct.
Hey.
I can't remember. I think it was a silent film though, actually.
Yeah, well, 1915, yeah, because
yeah.
soundies didn't come in. They were actually called talkies.
Yeah, I know. That's why it's like soundies.
Until 19-something. 1919, I think, actually.
So, yeah, it must have been a silent film, because that's why I think I remember looking at it and being like, how did that even happen?
How would you make a...
Yeah.
I guess... Yeah.
I mean, actually, you probably had more. It was probably easier.
Yeah, you probably would have needed a book to tie in, because it's like you have to read. Maybe that's the one situation where you actually have to read the book at the same time as watching the movie, because that's where you get the dialogue or something from.
Well, back in the day, that probably would have been really cool. Like, oh, let's go see the new film, darling.
Yeah.
Oh, and you're watching there with someone playing a piano in the background.
Yeah,
and
the organ stuff.
You know, I don't actually know what happened. We should probably get that book.
Yeah, probably buy that book and find out what the hell is going on.
So you were correct on that one.
Well, awesome. Well, what do you know? Flip my gibbets.
Hoopily.
I think that pretty much finishes us off for today's episode.
At sums today.
Yep. Thanks everyone for joining in today. Yeah, hope you enjoyed talking about movie novelizations. We're going to be back here next week chatting about... What are we going to be chatting about, Soph?
We're going to be talking about some true crime.
True crime.
No, everything doesn't need a sound.
Sound. Okay, goodbye everyone. We'll see you next time. For now, I've been Joe Ramshaw.
I'm Sophie Ramshaw.
And peace.